Next, let's take a look at lights. As we previously discussed, you can adjust the overall lighting look of your map in the environment settings, but oftentimes there will be areas that need some additional lighting, so let's take a look at what we've got. Lights can be found in the New Objects menu under the heading Common, subheading Lights. The first thing to note about lights in Trials Evo is that there are two basic kinds of lights. I refer to these two types as ambient and directional. Let's take a look at each kind and discuss a few uses. Ambient light is emitted from the source in all directions and does not cast shadows. The ambient lights are the point light, torch light, and wall light. There are a couple of differences between some of these light sources, so before we get into properties, let's quickly take a look at those. The point light is light only. It has no visual source that appears in the world. The torch is the other ambient light that is a little different because it also has a flame effect in addition to being a light. The wall light is a basic light fixture that emits ambient light. Now that we've covered the differences, let's take a look at the similarities, the properties. Each light has all the normal object physics properties. The menu item we are interested in now is the light settings option, and they're all pretty self-explanatory. The light enabled checkbox simply turns the light off or on. Light color allows you to change the color of the light being emitted from your source. The light intensity slider basically changes the brightness of the light. And finally, light range decides how far the light can reach. One thing to keep in mind when adjusting light range is that increasing the range can more quickly lead to performance issues. Now let's look at directional lights. These lights emit light in a specific direction like a spotlight and do cast shadows. The directional lights in Evo are the fluorescent light, hanging light, and work light. The headlamp on the bike is also a directional light. The only difference between the three directional lights is the shape of the light it emits and the shadow mask, which creates shadows based on which variation of the light you are working with. I've placed all three so you can quickly see the different shapes and masks. In the properties for these lights, there are a few extra options. Each type has at least two variations, and the light source itself can also be recolored. In the light settings menu, we have all the same settings as the ambient light, as well as two additional settings. Light cutoff basically describes how wide the light emitted is. In lighting terms, this could be referred to as the cone. When the directional light comes out of the source, it starts at a small point and expands as it gets further away, creating a cone of light. The angle of the cone determines how much the light spreads. Set to 90, your cone looks like a triangle with a 90-degree angle at the top. As you lower this number, your cone gets skinnier. Shadow type determines how the light casts shadows. By default, it's set to dynamic, which means it will realistically cast shadows of any object that passes in front of it. Static, however, will look at what objects are in front of the light when it starts and only cast shadows for those objects. Any object that passes in front of the light during play will not cast a shadow. This type is easier for the game to process and can come in really handy if you're having performance issues associated with lighting.